But again, let's tap into this helpmate. If my wife is a helpmate to me, to help me in my relationship with God and my faith, do I give my spouse permission to help me in that relationship with God? In a previous episode, we talked about how in marriage that Adam and Eve, when Adam was alone and God created a helpmate for him, this helpmate wasn't to take care of responsibilities, clean the dishes and things like that, but it was something more. And this helpmate was about leading the other closer to God. Like it was something about this work that they were going to help each other with that was bigger than just the responsibilities that we could find on earth, that this was leading them closer to heaven. And God himself uses that word of himself as a helpmate, where he refers to himself to his people and what God is doing for us, our sanctification, our holiness, leading us to heaven, right? So, and then in love itself, as St. Thomas Aquinas defines it, love is to will the good of the other. So while love does include emotions and it can be exciting and romantic and things like that, ultimately deep down at the most essential part of what love really is willing the good of the other. And so when in a relationship, friendship, and a marriage, especially in a marriage where love is meant to be perfected in the sacrament of marriage, the love is about willing the good, choosing the good, and that ultimate good being heaven for the other. So it's all about, even in marriage, the definition to the church will say as it's directed towards the good of the spouses and the procreation and the education of children. That the good of the spouses, again, heaven, the education of the children, education in what? Not just in math and knowing how to throw a ball, but education in the faith and helping them to awaken their understanding and their faith and habits of prayer and growing, helping them to grow into children of God. So then, okay, in that context of that a family and marriage has this ordered walk, this direction that's meant to be for heaven. And that's what we're made for. That's what we're called to. Love God with all of our heart, all of our mind, all of our strength, all of our soul, and to love our neighbor. And especially in family life, we see that lived out in a very important way, right? For society, for the church and everything. The future of the world and of the church passes through the family. And that family built on this love, this ordered walk to heaven, hand in hand with God. Okay, so what does that look like, though, when in marriage? How do we grow in our relationship? Well, obviously we talked about prayer and the sacraments and growing in our faith and service to one another. But again, let's tap into this helpmate. If my wife is a helpmate to me, to help me in my relationship with God and my faith, do I give my spouse permission to help me in that relationship with God? Sometimes that might be kind of awkward and difficult to hear sometimes. We might not be open to that. And it's not about criticizing the other or nagging the other or listing their faults, but encouraging in love, how can I be a better child of God? How can I be a better son in the Son? And how can I be a better husband, the husband that I'm supposed to be in Christ, and father that I'm supposed to be in the Lord? So that's a challenging request, because we are given that responsibility to help each other, but we have pride and selfishness, and we get bitter about comments, and maybe we're criticized, and maybe we don't feel as appreciated, so here's another thing that you're tearing me down. But at the heart of it is, I've got to be open to this specific point, that my wife is given to me by God, to one of the reasons, to help me in my faith and my relationship with God. And so one of the great ways we can foster that relationship and that responsibility, that helpmate in the work of salvation, is to go ahead and tell my wife, tell your spouse, I give you permission to call me out in faith and love, to help me grow as a man of God, to help me grow as a child of God in my relationship, and to allow prayer to really kind of guide those thoughts of when the right time to say that, to guide our hearts in prayer to speak to these to one another, even to bring something to the other, but to see that is a good thing. Just like in exercise, people have personal trainers or they have a workout partner, and your success of training is so much improved if you have somebody with you. You know, the odds of you working out and obtaining your goals are increased greatly if you have a partner, right? A helpmate in the gym. And that helpmate can see you at an angle where you can't see you, even if you're looking in a mirror, to help you if you got the right form or if you're doing something incorrectly. And to say something as a workout partner, as a trainer, is not to criticize you for doing it wrong, but to guide you so that you can remain true to your goals, to obtain those goals and to remain strong. I think the same is true, is that if if we see something in our spouse, that we have to be able to say it in a way that's loving, and to not to be silent about it. And I think one way is to speak to one another again and to ask each other, I give you permission. Do you give me permission?